Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Duran. I am the host of Changing the Game. Changing the Game was created to share leadership insights and inspiration from female professionals who are out there making a difference in their industry. Today, I'm joined by Kelly Neuner. Kelly is a powerhouse sales leader. She is currently a client executive at Fujitsu in their sustainable manufacturing division. Fujitsu is the world's sixth largest global information, communication, and technology company, and she is also a former Houston Texans cheerleader. Thanks for joining me, Kelly.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. I'm happy to be here.
Me too. I know Kelly is super busy. She's taking time out of her day to pop in quick and share her story with everyone listening. So I'm so grateful for the little bit of time we have with her today. So I would love to just kick it off right away. Clearly, based on that title, you're so ambitious. I would love to know a little bit more about your background. So I guess what were you like growing up? What led you to cheerleading?
Sure. So, sports, I've been playing sports since I was a kid. Sports was a big part of my life growing up. I did pretty much everything under the sun that you could think of, from ballet to swim team, track cross country, competitive cheerleading, tumbling, and played golf in high school. I still play golf.
Awesome.
So I always loved cheerleading because of the dance aspect and then also the tumbling aspect. It's a little bit different in professional cheerleading where you're not really doing tumbling. It's more of a dance aspect. But I kind of just tried out on a whim. One of my girlfriends from high school asked me to go and support her and try out with her, and surprise, we both made it. Was not anticipating it at all, but it was a really big honor, especially with, I believe at the time it was about, I want to say over 1,000 girls had tried out. It was the largest tournament that we
Wow.
had for tryouts. Yeah. So there were obviously only a limited number of spots. Even the veterans had to try out for their space for the following year. It was never guaranteed. So some veterans would stay and then some spots would open up. And so I was one of them.
That is amazing. What was it like competing at that level and performing at that level?
There really isn't competing, when you're a cheerleader, but at least, going into the actual like rounds of, there's several different rounds that you have to go through to be able to
Right.
pass on to the next. I made it past the first round and it's actually kind of crazy. The coach ran out onto the field and gave me a card that basically kind of solidified my spot even after the first round. So it really was kind of like, oh, I kind of already made it. But it wasn't officially announced until draft day, where we all, or after draft day, where we all got together and we were handed roses to be able to signify and kind of like a ceremonial thing for us as us joining the team. So yeah, it was interesting. A lot of other girls wound up having to go through more rounds than I did. Some made it, some didn't. Some that were rookies and some that were veterans made it, and some didn't. So yeah, it was a coveted spot for sure.
Wow. That's amazing. And talk about high pressure scenario and being able to perform
Yes.
in that situation.
Yes.
That has
Nerve
to be
wracking. I remember shaking at one point. I was like, oh God, I hope I did good.
Yeah, well, obviously you did. So that's amazing. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of takeaways from that experience that
Absolutely.
you've brought along to your professional career as well.
Yeah. Practice. So discipline, practice, the pursuit of excellence, constantly trying to improve, that's kind of how you get good at what you do. And that actually applies very much so in a sales career for sure. Um, and I can share a little bit about what, kind of led me into sales, if
Yes,
you want
please
to go
do.
into that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, I never wanted to be a salesperson. Surprising. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I was interested in business. I was interested in technology. I was interested in law and litigation. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I also needed a job after college, and I wanted to figure out, is this really what I want to do? So I wound up going into I used to work for a law firm prior to the Texans. And when I came back from Miami, went to school at Florida International University. So when I moved back from Miami, the law firm had turned into a technology company, actually a startup. I was the third ever sales hire and the sixth overall at the time. And they IPO'd for $2 billion back in 2021 under the call letters law on the New York Stock Exchange. So got to be a pretty pivotal role, play a pivotal role in marketing and sales and getting the company off the ground and finding success and market awareness. So it was kind of like, okay, I had to get really, I had to practice and really do my research about the technology that we were selling into litigation departments. And surprisingly enough, I'm good with sales.
Yeah.
Personally, I think if you're a people person, you can kind of pick up on people's cues, and you can you're able to actually have, meaningful conversations and genuine conversations when you bring, your own genuine personality to the table so you can have meaningful discussions. So I was flying around all over the country meeting with associate general counsels of Fortune 100 companies at 27 years old. And it was just kind of like drinking through a fire hose at the time. But,
Yeah.
after so many times of practicing, presenting, understanding the technology and asking, the dumb questions, because I was an economics major, I wasn't a computer science major. And I wasn't a lawyer. So I was having to, not only learn technology, but also legal jargon in the beginning of my career. So definitely a lot of practicing, a lot of research, a lot of, being curious and asking the questions so that you can come prepared to your meetings and to your customers and can actually bring value. So, yeah.
Thank you for that, Kelly. What an amazing story. You didn't plan on being in sales. You wanted to be a lawyer, and then you were just thrown into this role, one of the first salespeople at the
Yep.
company that ended up doing really well. So I do kind of want to unpack that a little bit more. Like, what was that
Sure.
like being thrown into that role right away? Were you nervous at all making
Oh,
that
yeah.
career
Nerves.
transition?
Yeah, it was kind of like trying out for the Texans. Your first couple times in presentations don't really land because you're so full of nerves and you're still learning, the technology and the legal jargon and, what these general counsels or these, people in higher positions really care about. You want to make sure that it lands. So you're going to have naturally those jitters in the beginning. But again, a little bit of practice,
Yeah.
getting comfortable with your messaging, getting comfortable with your knowledge goes a long way with being able to have effective conversations and presentations and really, leading to an actual sale. So it was a little nerve wracking, but I think over time I've gotten a lot better. I've had 10 years
Yeah.
of practice at this point, but still constantly learning about technology because it does evolve so quickly.
Yeah. I love that you also called out not being afraid to ask the dumb questions or just ask questions in general. Do you feel like you've always been, I mean, from trying out for the Texans to throwing yourself in this role, do you feel like you've always kind of been comfortable with being uncomfortable, or is that something that you had to practice?
No, I've always I think, anything that has pressure, whether that's in sports or if that's in school, if that's in your profession, there's always going to be, that pressure to perform. Um, it's, I don't know, I'm good under pressure. Sometimes I guess, we all have our own little, you know, I guess quips whenever we're under pressure, but I try to find the comfort in being uncomfortable. And that's really when you get out of your comfort zone
Yeah.
where you grow the most. So I think if you're not feeling that sort of sense of uncomfortability, then you're probably not growing.
Yeah, amen to that. That I always say that the magic happens outside of the comfort zone. That's where when it
Mhm.
truly expands.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess do you feel like your background in athletics, golf, cheer, everything else that you competed in growing up, do you feel like that's really influenced your approach to sales and leadership in your current role?
I think just growing up, being in sports in general, I remember, trying to land a back tuck or a back handspring and just really having, trouble with it, or, being able to do the splits. You have to practice. It hurts, but you have to, push yourself to get to the point where you want to be. And I think that if you have, the desire to grow and the desire to continue to improve, then you will get to eventually to that point. And I think that also applies when it comes to business and to sales. You have to get you have to keep practicing. You have to get, comfortable eventually, or try to get comfortable eventually with what you're, selling, or what you're positioning, or what you're trying to accomplish. You have to practice, and you have to put the time in. And sometimes it's long hours of research. Sometimes it's, practicing, what that pitch is going to be, or, doing the research on who you're speaking to and what they care about. I think just doing the work that leads up to the results is really, it applies in sports, and it also applies in professional career. So it's funny, with Fujitsu, Fujitsu is a Tokyo-based company. They're very well respected in the Asian countries, but they have, the Japanese call this thing called Kaizen, and it is basically a principle of continuous improvement. So I like to think that my entire life, from sports to my professional career to me personally, I've been practicing that without even realizing that's what I've been doing. And I think that if you have that in you, to continuously improve and grow, then you will see results over time. It's just little pieces over time. So yeah, it's a good principle to live by.
I agree. And that's, I think, one thing that sports teaches us to just do naturally, that continuous dedication to getting better little by little every day.
Discipline.
I totally align with that. Yeah, the discipline piece.
Yeah.
Speaking of Fujitsu as well, can you explain a little bit about what your role is like at Fujitsu and the day-to-day?
Yeah, I took a flight up to Dallas today. I have a meeting here within the next hour with one of our partner companies. But Fujitsu is, like you said, the 6th largest information communication technology company in the world. It's probably the biggest company you've never heard of, and at least in the Americas. We partner with a lot of software companies like Oracle, SAP, ServiceNow, Salesforce, and we basically integrate and help apply advanced technologies that we bring to the table as a company to help further our customers' agendas when it comes to, whether that's sustainable manufacturing, loss prevention in retail, all sorts of different things, predicting when your assets or your plants are going to fail, or your equipment's going to fail, optimizing supply chain. We kind of come in from not just, we're not throwing software and solutions at you. We're getting down to the business challenges that you have and mapping what makes sense from a business perspective and a technology perspective to be able to come with the end result that the customer is looking to accomplish. AI is a huge thing that we're doing as well. We have our own proprietary IP AI called Kazuchi, and it does have a piece of it that is generative AI. So it's just a very advanced company, technologically speaking, and with a lot of really smart people that understand, the different industries that we serve, especially in manufacturing, because Fujitsu since 1935 has been a manufacturer. So we understand our manufacturers like no other, because we are one. We actually, I believe, manufacture the Amazon batteries for them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's not my division. Day to day, I would say, obviously, working with our partners, talking with our customers, getting the challenges and, certain things that they're specifically focused on. Recently CrowdStrike had that huge, massive outage because of a software update that the content wasn't properly mapping, which is another thing that just goes to show you just how important it is to have, quality, tools and resources to continue business continuity. And so we really help companies in that area as well, at least from an IT and OT security perspective. But day to day is working with my customers, getting marketing, working with marketing, attending, planning for conferences, attending conferences, following up with, the leads that we get, talking with customers and getting to understand their challenges so that we can actually come to the table with a solution that might make sense for them, given our expertise. So it's really fun. I'm constantly learning. I joined Fujitsu about it'll be 4 months coming up here soon. So, but been in technology for 10 years. So it's a little different. I've been on the software side for 10 years. And then now I'm on more of the kind of like software agnostic. I'm coming here with solutions for you, not, just throwing software and seeing where it sticks. So that's more exciting to me, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. I do want to back up as well in our prior conversation. You had mentioned a passion or a strongly held belief surrounding AI competency and that topic. Do you want to expand a little bit on that for anyone listening here?
I mean, there's so much, like, I'm not an expert in AI and I'm not going to pretend like I am, but I have been working with AI tools since the beginning of my career. It's interesting, for a long time, companies were not, open to even going to the cloud, much less utilizing AI. And now you see the cloud adopted by major corporations and conglomerates all over the world. AI is obviously, the big buzzword right now, but I actually utilize AI on a daily basis with my work to fine tune, again, that whole Kaizen principle, continuous improvement, the pursuit to continuously improve and hone your skills. I can see where AI could be potentially used, where you're not learning, the hard stuff on your own or utilizing critical thinking. But for me, I'm utilizing AI to, help maybe make my emails more concise when it comes to my customers, or, if I'm doing research on an account and trying to understand, where they are financially or what their, initiatives or challenges currently are. If it's publicly available, then I can ask, Copilot to be able to give me some information so that I'm armed with information to be able to kind of think about where, there could be opportunity for some business or for us to be able to help our customers. So it is important to be aware of AI right now. There's a really great gal on LinkedIn. She's one of the top AI influencers. Her name is Ali Miller. I suggest, if you're not familiar with AI, follow her. She has wonderful newsletters that, kind of give you context about how you can utilize AI, from, very basic marketing and sales to all the way to writing code and using different techniques and different platforms for specific use cases. So, but it is important to be aware of AI because, a lot of companies that don't adopt AI early and they do it later on, at least according to Ernst & Young's presentation at one of the conferences, they're going to be left behind. We saw that with, Netflix and Blockbuster. Blockbuster is no longer around because Netflix was innovative enough to be able to take the market share. And so, I encourage companies, if you don't have an AI strategy, you should be talking about it now. So.
Yeah, I think there's so much surrounding the topic of AI. I mean, it is the buzzword right now. One thing that I resonated with me when you were talking about, hey, using AI to refine your emails and help you be more efficient in your day to day. Here at Shift Group, I work with a lot of candidates who are just going out into the workforce for the first time. And some of them are, using these AI tools to help them write their emails or talk tracks or things like that as they're going through training to get their first role. I would just like to know how you would encourage some of those newer, greener candidates out there to maybe use it appropriately or the most efficiently and effectively to where they can still refine and develop their skills on their own.
Yes. So if we're talking about, putting together your resume, obviously you want it to be factual and it concise and, put together in a manner that is professional. That's fine. I think you should definitely proofread, put something together that, is in your own words, and then go ahead and have AI give you some suggestions about, and critiques about, the conciseness of it or the structure of it, or, if it's lacking specific, information relevant to your background. Maybe there's some quantifiable numbers that you need to be in. There could be some number that you did with, a volunteer group or something like that, something that's tangible. I would utilize AI to be able to help fine tune that. But when it comes to like a cover letter, of course, write your own first and then utilize it to critique paste it into whatever you need to, whatever tool that you feel comfortable, whether that's ChatGPT or if that's Copilot, but make it in your own words, make it have your own voice too. Because there is something called hallucinations in AI, and sometimes you'll get some really interesting messages back. With Copilot, I do see, and I haven't utilized ChatGPT as much anymore. I utilize Copilot, but there's some different settings in Copilot that you can use that's a little bit more concise, and then some that are a little bit more illustrative. So just depending on how you want to come across to your if you're doing a technical role, I would probably be a little bit more concise, but still make your cover letter be in your words that kind of shows your personality still. Because again, concise could be very robotic information, and illustrative could be all over the place. So you just want to make sure that it's still representing, who you are and what your experience is and the skills and experience that you bring to the table. But yeah, just don't rely on it for everything, but it is a good, efficient, productive tool to utilize.
I think that's great advice. Thank you, Kelly. Like I see from time to time things from candidates where it's a little bit more obvious maybe that they've used the AI. So I think it's important to still keep your voice, still keep it authentic to how you would communicate.
Right. Exactly. Authenticity. Yes. Because a computer can't, doesn't know your personality. And you want your future employer to get a kind of an understanding of who you are as a person. And AI may not be able to do that.
Yes. Totally agree. We could keep going down that road too. There was another topic you brought up in our last conversation that I really resonated with as well. It was when you were talking about the importance of community or mentorship for women in sales.
Yes.
So I would love if you could share a little bit more about that, how the community of female sales leaders have helped you in your career.
Yeah. So I've been fortunate enough to work with some really fabulous women. I will say in the tech space, it is predominantly men. As you know, 30% of sales is female, 70% is men. But, not only am I usually one of the few women, I'm also usually the youngest. So I've definitely had to lean on women and men, obviously, but recently I had a really good experience at this conference called Rethink that's held by the Manufacturing Leadership Councils. It's their annual event that they have, and it's amazing. Probably the best conference I've ever been to, but I was presenting an award for sustainability and circular economy. And, again, getting out of your comfort zone. This is the first time that I'm presenting an award on stage in front of, 500 people. You're going to get jitters, even though I've done, been in front of thousands of people before. Being on Texans, speaking is a whole different, ball game. So again, was that getting out of my comfort zone doing that. And I ran into one of the gals that is head of their manufacturing division of a competitor, Ernst & Young. And she offered to help me practice my speech with her. And so I thought that was amazing. That somebody even that was a competitor that, has probably done so many different, presentations, which she actually did do a presentation a couple of days prior to that particular award that I presented, but she helped me and allowed me to practice with her in the bathroom. And I can't tell you how much that helped me with, calming my nerves. She was like, that was amazing. That was great. So, I mean, just being able to lean on, others to, whether that's learning more about the technical aspect, and women, it is great to see women, but don't be afraid to just to ask the dumb questions. If you don't know, how are you going to get better if you don't ask, So, but it is important to be an ally to the women in tech, because I think as women, you already kind of, and this might be a little, I guess, what's the word? Anyways, a little, it starts with this thing. I can't find it for me right now, but it controversial. Sorry, excuse me.
Yes,
but
I hate when you can't find the word.
Yeah, as a woman, like, and as being a woman, being young, also being a former Texans cheerleader, there's all sorts of stereotypes that you could get into. And then asking a question that you don't know the answer to, you may wind up losing credibility with people. But in the beginning of your career, it's important to ask those questions so that you know what you're talking about and you have credibility with your customers. And fortunately, from both women and men, I've been able to ask those dumb questions in my career, and they've really appreciated that I'm asking these questions so that I can be effective in what I'm trying to do. But it is important, again, to be an ally as a woman in tech, because there's fewer of us. It's just part of the industry. And so, I'm always, offering and happy to be an ally to anybody that's interested in getting into tech, getting into sales, wanting to know, how I did things or how I've become successful and what's worked for me. I think it's important for other women to, try to lift each other up and, succeed and help each other succeed. I think that's important to do as a woman in tech. But again, the men have also been extremely helpful in my career, thankfully. And I've had some really good mentors that are both men and women. So I'm very appreciative of those that, have bared with me not knowing, and asking the dumb questions. So yeah, I think it's just important to just find a mentor or be a mentor to others to help elevate, not just your organization, but others' lives in general. And that's what I do for a living. I help companies. I have a genuine desire to help others. So, whether that's personally or professionally. So I think it's important to have that sort of sense too when you're out in the workforce.
Absolutely. And how would you encourage any listeners to find that mentor or the group that helps them feel motivated to ask the dumb questions?
I get to know who you're talking to, kind of get to know what their personalities are like. I think, if you are new to an organization, start introducing yourself to, others within your organization, even ones that are not specifically in your business unit, because they may have a plethora of information that, maybe your team may not have experience because maybe they're not as many people have been with your company as long in your team, but there are others that have been. So, asking people outside of or getting to know, introducing yourself, and then kind of getting an understanding of personalities and who has time, who has expertise, who seems to be willing to help and encouraging. And then, asking them to set up time to, go over questions that you may have about, the company or what you're trying to do or, the tech of it all, strategies that may have worked or information that they know, previously from being in the role for as long as they have been. So just, asking and trying to find the allies within your organization. And then also, personally, if you have friends that, seem to be doing well in their job and you want to get some, information about how you could be doing your job, better, or where you could improve, or where you should, dedicate your time when it comes to, honing your skills. Ask your friends that are doing well in their careers that may be kind of similar to what you're trying to do, and then lean on them. But then also, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm still working my way to success. I feel like I have been successful over my career. I've definitely had some really great years. That's also part of sales. Some years you have really great years and some years you don't, but, continuing to hang in there and keep going and keep trying, I think it's worth it. But yeah, I'm definitely, more than happy to help both women and men when it comes to, advice or questions that they may have around their selling or around the tech space or AI. Happy to always lend a hand when it comes to helping others elevate themselves.
Thank you so much, Kelly. That was a great segue to just my final question for you of this live. I would love to know just what advice you have for any women or just anyone in general who is considering a career in sales.
Be bold and be confident. And if you're not confident, work towards becoming confident. Establish your credibility because you've done your research. Research what you're doing. Research the company and the people that you're talking to. Listen more than you speak. and ask questions and don't be afraid.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kelly, for your time and your wisdom and your story. I've really enjoyed our time together. And you mentioned anyone can follow you or connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So anyone listening, please connect with Kelly. And I just, again, appreciate your time so much. And good luck with your meetings today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jordan. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.